Do you feel like your business is running your life instead of the other way around? I'm Roy Castleman. I built multiple seven-figure companies, worked across continents, and coached high-performing entrepreneurs. But I've also been completely burnt out. At one point, I was barely seeing my daughter, drowning in stress, and one step away from walking away from it all. That's when I made a decision to build a business and a life that works for me. The journey became Elevate 360, a system to help business owners reclaim their time, find their energy again, and get back in control, without sacrificing growth. And this podcast, Power Movers, is where I share real stories behind that shift. Each week you'll hear from entrepreneurs, founders, and leaders who've walked through the fire and come out the other side with clarity, courage, and a system that works. If you're ready to build a business that gives you more life instead of taking it away, you're in the right place. Alrighty, so I am here with the lovely Clare Amos, and I've known Clare for a couple of years now. And Clare came to me in a rather strange way. She runs a program in Cranfield University with high-performance business leaders, and she came and joined me in an ice bath, but we'll tell that story a bit later. Clare has an amazing view on business owners and how she's a psychologist. I'll let her introduce all the things she's done directly after this. And she's actually come and helped me in my businesses where she actually gets people to communicate better. I think that's the heart of what I saw in it. And I think every single business owner should be hiring Clare, but there's only one Clare, so we'll have to make a plan. Clare, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me on Power Movers.
Thank you for that very lovely introduction, Roy. Yeah, would you like me to introduce myself?
Let's go through. I've got a psychologist with this and occupational therapist and all these things. So I thought I'll just let you introduce it.
Okay. So thank you. Yeah, and the story of how I met Roy is quite funny, actually. So Clare Amos, I am a business psychologist, or an occupational psychologist is the technical term. And people struggle sometimes to understand what that means, including my brother-in-law. He's been my brother-in-law for over 20 years now, I think. And every Christmas, he still says to me, Clare, what is it that you do? I think the occupational therapist thing gets mixed into this. He's a medic, so he thinks I should be working in some sort of clinical setting. But no, I do not. The way I liken it is that to a sports psychologist. These days, they've all got them, right? We've seen it on the golfers have it, and the tennis players have them. Even the football players, the rugby players have psychologists these days who will come along and say, okay, you're obviously at the top of your game. You're playing really well. Let's have a look and see what we can do to improve or increase your performance. And that might be self-talk. And it'd be great if we could do some chatting about that today, because that's really powerful. So it might be about how they are relating to themselves, how they're relating to the world, how they're relating to other people. And it might be how they're communicating. So how they're communicating with each other. And particularly when you move that out into a team. So for example, a football team. Gareth Southgate, by the way, has done some brilliant work using psychologists to really cement the team and get teams talking to each other. That's all in the realm of a sports psychologist. And I do that, Roy, with arguably what is more important is with the business world. So people who are running businesses.
The sports world. You also do the sports world.
I do a little bit of the sports world, but I major in the business world. So people who are at the top of their game, so CEOs, FDs, entrepreneurs like yourself, all high potentials, and really thinking about how can I really get my performance working for me? And so this is also a big passion of mine. How can I do it in a way that I'm actually enjoying this experience of life that we're having? Yes, performing well, but really enjoying who I am and how I relate to people and how I'm experiencing this throughout, which then dips me into the world that you and I connect over a little bit more as well, I think. Am I allowed to tell the story of how I met you?
Go for it. Hit it.
So it's quite an interesting story. I run a high performance leadership program at Cranfield Business School. And we were putting it together and we said, look, we really want it. It's obviously going to be cerebral. We're going to share some models about leadership, but we also want it to be kind of more visceral. We're moving into the area of really understanding how the body and the mind are connected in everything that you do. So we wanted to do something which was kind of physical and emotional and psychological and cerebral. And so I said, look, breathwork is all the thing. And I would take it from the West Coast of America and Wim Hof. And so I said, look, we'd be missing a trick if we didn't use something about breathwork. So I literally Googled breath workers near Cranfield University, and Roy's name popped up. So I sent him an email and said, this is what I'm up to. This is what I want to do. Are you around? And he called me back and said, sure, I'd love to get involved with that. I'm running a workshop this weekend. It's breath work and it's cold water therapy. It's ice baths. Come along, have a go and see what you think of me before you engage me. And I have to say, as soon as he said ice bath, I thought, no, I'm not doing this. I'm the person who wears a coat on the beach. My friends will laugh at me for that. So I said, oh, I'm sorry. I think I'm busy this weekend. I'm running my son around. And he said, how old's your son? I said, he's 18. He said, bring him. So I went, okay, I'm not getting out of this. So I went and grabbed my 18-year-old son and said, look, you're coming with me. And we spent a day with Roy doing the breath work and doing the ice bath. It was an amazing, life-changing experience, I would say, for us. My son still does it. I'm in the mountains at the moment. I mean, it looks like I'm in the French Alps. My son will still go and jump in the lake just up the road here in the spring. And it was life-changing. And Roy now does come along and do breath working on my leadership course at Cranfield. And then, and again, this has been a real journey, I think, maybe for both of us, but then Roy introduced me to the work of Joe Dispenza, and I went and spent a week with Joe Dispenza, really thinking about the body-mind connection, and bringing that into the business world is something in a way that is right for the business world, is something that I'm really interested in as well.
And that's Dr. Joe is doing so much of that. But to your point, though, this idea that for high performance in anybody, whether it's sports people or business people, you have to actually know who you are, right?
Yeah.
You have to like peel back the layers of the onion and have a bit of a cry about it, and to face those things that you don't really want to face about yourself, because we're all perfect, right?
You make a couple of really interesting points there, Roy. The first one, self-awareness. I say to anybody, if you're going to go on to a leadership course or even a performance course, self-awareness is almost, it's the staple, it's the foundation, it's the number one thing. Even if you're great at what you're doing, if you're not really aware of where and how you are great, with who you are great. So let's just say you're a leader. And I know you're a leader, Roy, and I know that you work with another couple of leaders, and you're all great, but you're all great in very different ways. And I know that's part of the work I've done with you. And I know that actually you can't operate without the skills that you have and the skills that your two other board members have, right? But very different. And really knowing, where am I great, with who, in what tasks, in what kind of environment, where will I thrive, is so important. And the other thing that I say to people a lot is, look, where you are already brilliant is where you will continue to be brilliant. So yes, you need to know where you're not doing so well and think, okay, how do I bring that up to a level that's not going to cause me problems, that's going to be okay, that we're all in the world of development. But actually knowing where I'm brilliant is really important, because that's what I leverage and I grow and I develop, and that's what I'm going to offer up in this world. And the interesting thing is, and I'm thinking back to the work that I've done with you, is that appreciating where you're not brilliant means appreciating the other person in your team who does the stuff that you don't do well.
100%. And that has been a real journey for me. And my team, right? And just getting the communication piece right between us, and understanding where we sit in the communication scale of things, and how important various elements of how we communicate contribute to the team. Without all of those elements, that you need all 3 or 4 different elements to actually contribute. And we all have parts of this, but not all of it. So that's the whole thing of teamwork, right?
Yeah. And the other thing that you said to me, which I completely agree with and is interesting as well, you said we've got to peel back the layers and find that stuff in us. And I think you said that we'll have a good cry, or that we might be thinking, oh, I'm not really as happy with this piece. And again, that we do that work on our leadership courses as well. Because if you don't do that, the stuff, the murky stuff, right? The stuff that you go, oh, that's the stuff that I'm less comfortable with, or that isn't working quite as well for me, is running the show. It's almost like a piece of software, almost like a little virus that you got in the software, and it's running the show. And if you ignore it, it is still running the show. So a lot of the work that we do exactly is that. When you say peel back the layers, you're absolutely right there. It's about saying, for me to work with this and for me to be my best self, which ultimately that's what the game I'm in, saying, how can people be their best selves and have their best experience in whatever they're doing? You've got to become very aware of that stuff. So we pull it out and we go, what's the stuff that's holding you back? The beliefs. And I love the whole concept of self-limiting beliefs. I don't love them. I love the concept that we kind of go, okay, we can work with them. The narratives, the stories, the ego that we've created, that we may have put into place when we were 6 or 7 years old in the playground, because that seemed to be a way to navigate that area of our lives. But it's still there. And we go, actually, it's not really very helpful anymore.
We have to really be happy to become uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we have looking back at ourselves and seeing who we actually are. We don't even want to look in the mirror sometimes, right? We really have to look internally. And I love coming in. I think we've done 6 or 7 courses with you. Worked with you on 6 or 7 courses. And here we have these leaders from around the world. Yeah, some really high-end people. And I love what you do. You get them in there and you put them into such an uncomfortable position in everything they're doing, right? Yeah, and you can tell a little bit about that if that suits. But then you bring me in and you're like, here's Roy. He's going to make you breathe. And they're all going,
Yeah.
what? Yeah. And then there they are in their business suits. I get them laying down the floor and crazily breathing. And the responses from it just allows you so much. For me, the breathwork allows you to connect with yourself on a different level. And just understand how powerful the concept of breathing properly throughout your day, a huge amount of commitment to understanding the breath, how it can help everything. And that is part of your course. I think that's been a real interesting journey to see.
Do you know, it has been a really interesting journey, Roy, because as I've explained, I didn't know that much about breath work when I pulled you into the workshop. I knew it must be a thing, because I thought there's been a few books and there's been a few things. So this is something, it's always worth exploring when something new pops up and people are behind it. You say, what's that all about? So I knew it must be a thing. I think what I love about the work that we do on this course is it's part of the course is about performance. And what I mean by that is these are really senior leaders. So they have to, however they're feeling inside, they have to get up in front of their teams, in front of their organizations, and create a vision, or get people behind their vision, instill confidence in their vision. They have to persuade, they have to influence. So them using their voices and their bodies is really important in terms of what they do. And part of what you do in terms of using breath to stimulate or regulate, I need to feel calm here, or I need to feel kind of pumped up here, or I'm using breath to regulate my speech, how I come across. Part of it is that performance bit. And we use the breath work in that way. But then the other part of it is bringing up all of that stuff that we need to deal with. Like I said, the glitch in the software, or the virus, or just the outdated software, could we even say. And you do that too, all in that session. And I know that we have had experience. I know we've had experiences on the course. Like you say, they come in, I think they look at me like I'm mad sometimes. What are we doing now, Claire? And we lay on the floor, and I've got big Roy coming in and doing this breath work. And sometimes for people, it brings up stuff that we can then use brilliantly in the workshop. So it's brought up stuff, and Never ignore it, right? If it comes up, don't try and push it back down again. Or you go, what is that? Let's have a look at that. And the only way to get over this stuff is for it to emerge. And then you use a process of inquiry. What's this? Where is it helpful? Where is it not helpful? I think that comes up a little bit in the workshop. And by the way, that's where Joe Dispenza's work is so useful, because it goes, this stuff is stored in the body. And if we continue to use our bodies and our brains in the same way, we're not changing anything. We can learn a nice model. Oh, this is leadership model. Lovely. And then when we go back and we do the exact same thing. So I think part of, what you do, sometimes stuff comes up for people, and sometimes people just get taken into a different state. And that's what you do for them as well, right? And they come out and they go, oh my goodness, I'm feeling like this. Bring it on. And we, again, in the course, we get them to do lots of tasks that take them out of their comfort zone, particularly in the module that you work on. And it gives them that, okay, I was thinking I was this person, I can now be this person. This is opening up a whole new way of being for me. And I think your breath work really does that for them as well.
I think that first piece that struck me about breathwork when I first did it was how it can literally just wipe out yesterday's emotions.
Yeah.
The broom to clear away all the emotions that, yes, if you do it regularly and you commit to it, it makes every day just that 5% or 10% better. And I know you practice it quite regularly now.
No, I do. And I've been a psychologist for 27, 28 years now, Roy. And my go-to has always been the brain, always, right? So I've always gone limiting beliefs, pull them out. And by the way, limiting beliefs, I will never forget the day that someone introduced me to the concept of a limiting belief. I was
just tell people you don't know about limiting beliefs.
Yeah. Okay. And then I do need to come back to the body thing as well, because that's where you come in. So I think I was probably in my late 20s. I was sitting in a bar in a big kind of training center, and a colleague of mine came into the bar and she said, and so we're talking about the 90s now. I know it's more common chatter now, like boundaries is common chatter, psychological safety is common chatter, but it wasn't back then. And she came into the bar and she said, oh my goodness, I've just been on this amazing course and I've learned all about limiting beliefs. And I said, what? I said, what are you talking about? What do you mean, limiting beliefs? Never heard the term in my life. And she said, all of that chatter and story and stuff that you believe in your own head, because it's your own voice telling you about it, that isn't true and that isn't helpful. Honestly, Roy, it was like a lightning bolt. It was like it was an epiphany. It was one of those moments in my life that is probably, again, was a bit of a game changer for me, because I suddenly you start laughing really, and you suddenly go, I have got permission to not believe all of that nonsense I'm telling myself, that it isn't necessarily true. And that if it's not helpful, then maybe we can set up a process of inquiry to not believe it anymore. Absolute game changer. I was about 28 then. I was running workshops for men in their kind of 40s, 50s who were really senior. You know me, I'm not the tallest person in the world, so I was kind of little old me. And I suddenly thought, you don't have to believe all these stories you're running about who you are and who you're not, because they can't be wholly true. And I'll talk about that in a minute if you want me to. And they're not helpful. And it's liberating, because you then start up a process and there is a technique that you can use to inquire, and they just lose their grip on you. And you just go, what's the new thing I'm believing? What's the new thing that I'm believing? So they're limiting beliefs. I think the interesting thing is, and I've been working in that sphere, as I say, 27, 28 years now. And by the way, I love that sphere. I love the stuff that you can do with your head. But it's more recently, you've been part of that journey as well. It's more recently where I've realized the power of the body and the breath. Actually, that's another little way in. That's another little life hack. And the two work together. And that's why I think in more recent years, with your breath work, Joe Dispenza, with that powerful meditation that he does. And again, we can talk about that, because there's meditation and then there's Joe Dispenza meditation. It's a different thing, where you've realized the whole thing about the body and the mind coming together. And I think in terms of performance, that's huge and exciting and fun.
Yeah. And it's this piece we were talking now about almost 4 different units. So you've got your conscious mind,
Yeah.
your subconscious mind,
Yeah.
little another mind that sits there, and he's kind of the conscious mind's bad brother, and he just sits there and talks rubbish in your ear.
Yeah.
And then you have the body. Yeah, and the older we get, the more we program ourselves on a day-to-day basis because we do the same things in the same way, at the same time. We go on autopilot. So you get in your car, you drive to the shop, you pick up the same food, you eat it, you come back, you cook the same food, you eat it in the same way. And we just have all these autopilot systems. And at the same time, we think about things in the past, and we let the things in the past control our day, our present. So we get really stuck on something that happened to you, and you feel bad about it, and you're angry about it, and that just comes up again. And every time we think about it, we put the same chemicals into our body. We have the same reaction. Our body doesn't know, our mind and body don't know the difference between being in the moment, in the activity, or going through a memory. That's a human thing that we're so different from the rest of the animal kingdom. So there we go through and we live through the same pains time and time again.
Yeah.
And I love the breath work because the breath work can actually shake that stuff up. I have people come on my breath work courses that end up in tears for hours afterwards.
Absolutely.
And they just don't know what it was. And it doesn't matter what it was, but it does matter that you get rid of it.
Yeah.
Right? You get rid of those chemicals. And Dr. Joe has just been the next evolution of that. I think I couldn't have come to him if I hadn't gone through the breath work. Yeah.
Right.
That was very much a next step in the equation. So.
Yeah. It's so interesting what you say about this whole past behavior and our patterns dictating our lives, because we all think, I'm a free spirit. I wake up and I get to choose everything I do in my life. And theoretically, yes. Practically, no. And the work that neuroscientists are doing at the moment is fascinating. Elizabeth Feldman, I think, she talks about how your brain is largely a predicting machine. And when I first read it, I just went, no. So it's hard to get your head around this concept. If you think about it, your brain is kind of living in a dark box. It's in there. And it just has a few little outlets into the world. So it can kind of see these things in the spectrum of light that we can see, which is teeny tiny compared to what's actually out there. And we can hear, again, these kind of, anyone who's got a dog knows that are teeny tiny what we can hear and we can taste and say, but that's where the brain works. And what the brain does, and the brain is a beautiful, brilliant piece of kit, by the way. It's amazing. But what it does is it takes this information and then we build what we call a schema inside. So when you walk into a room, you don't have to work out, even if the chair that you see is unlike any other chair you've ever seen, you don't have to work out that it's a chair, right? You kind of go, oh, that's a chair that I'm using my big clunky labels of language to go chair, cup, that's a person, which is fantastic, right? And what our brains do is we predict what's going to happen. And then our brains only perk up a little bit if the thing that we didn't think was going to happen is different. So when you talk about the routines of everyday life, we're running on autopilot and our brains are predicting and knowing and all the rest of it, which is great because it means when you read something amazing about neuroscience, you've got a little bit of space in your brain to do that. But what's not great is this whole autopilot means same old. And what it also means is if someone labeled you as shy when you were 3 years old, and which shy, it's a bit like chair. That's a massive label. What does it actually mean? With who? In what circumstances? What happens? What does that mean? But somebody labels you as shy. And then, I don't know, you go to school and maybe you get there late and all the cool kids are hanging together and you're a bit on the periphery and you go, evidence. That's more evidence for my schema. I'm shy. And then somebody else might say, oh yeah, her brother's really kind of outgoing or whatever. And so you carry this label and that goes into that always already happening prediction and pattern, like you say. And then your label of shy means that you'll create rules. That means I don't stand up in front of team members. That means I don't offer myself up for the new and challenging project. That means I don't put myself on a train or a plane and go over to Iceland and jump in a pool like you do. So we then have rules which then reinforces this message. And as you say, we then just play out that whole scene day after day, and we truly believe it. So we have to get out of that system. We have to get out of that predictive system. And there's another lovely, you might have seen it, Roy. There's a lovely little picture somewhere on the internet of new neural connections. I don't know if you've seen it. So you've got neural connections and they're like, they're moving all the time. And this is you in your brain. And they kind of go like this and then they kind of go, and then they go whoop. And then they're like that. And they're wired together. And that is a new behavior. And it is possible. But let's just say you go to work the same way every day. Okay. And you've hacked out a path through the forest, and then you've walked through it, and then you've walked your cow through it, and the rest of it. So it's a big old path, and you're used to it. You do the same thing every day. And then I say to you, do you know what, Roy? I know you love that path. I know you've been walking that path since you were kind of 10 years old, but I've got a better path for you. And it's leading you to the kind of beautiful waterfall in the middle of the forest. You want to come? And you might go, okay, but you've got to get your machete out and you've got to knock down some trees or whatever. And it's easier to go back to your old route because it's just easy. But you have to keep going and keep going. And then you build that path. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about new behaviors or new ways of being, new beliefs, new narratives. It is possible. You're making the whole stuff up anyway. It's just neural connections. It is possible, but you just have to do the work around it.
I really love that example you've given there, because it is the uncomfortable unknown and the comfortable known.
Yes.
And you have, I've spent a lot of my life going into the unknown. And that's where I find my peace. When I jump out of airplanes or go underwater, or when I push myself in, and I have to be in the present moment, and I don't know what the outcome is going to be. And you go into it with the best preparation you can. But that's really where I find peace, because my brain actually gets a chance to be in the present moment.
Yeah.
And I find that by not having those things that I do, if I stop doing them for a while, for whatever it is, without having some way to look after me as the person, I'm not as effective in what I'm doing for people. I'm not effective for my team, for myself, for my family, for my friends. My whole world just goes down into, I know exactly what's going to happen today. And I kind of feel like I go stagnant. It really kind of puts me, and I find myself, this piece you're talking about here, with really learning about yourself. This is an amazing age we're in at the moment, because there's so much coming out, and there's so much information we're able to glean from the likes of Dr. Joe or Wim Hof, or any of the other people that are leading the field and saying, actually, we can make so many more changes in ourselves, in our bodies, in our minds. And I love the journey so many of the business owners that we're working with are taking, because they start and they're just doing the same thing every day, and getting the same results every day. And we can just put in one little thing, like give yourself breath work every day. I talk about an energy piece, right? Yeah, we only have so much energy in your energy pot every day. That's all we have. And we can spend that energy today, or as so many of us do, we spend it on yesterday, thinking about yesterday, and we spend it on tomorrow, worrying about what's coming. And so we've got 100% in the pot. We've thrown 30% to yesterday. We've thrown 40% to tomorrow. We've only got 30% left. And then tomorrow doesn't actually work so well, because we haven't spent the time on today to make it work.
It's so funny. It's so funny what you're talking about, Roy, because also, and by the way, I think you're slightly different from most people. And what I mean by that is,
Thank you.
I think most people wouldn't go, do you know what? I've got to be jumping out of airplanes or jumping off cliffs or all that other crazy stuff to do to find my peace. I think you may be at a bit of an extreme.
But let me just pause you there for 1 second. I did those things, and it took me years to realize that was where I found peace.
Interesting.
It's a bit of I went in, you get in the ice bath, you sit in the ice bath, and I didn't realize that probably until halfway into doing ice bath that actually this is like that and that. And when I started doing the work on myself, I was like, okay, that's when I'm not thinking forward, I'm not thinking back. I don't have energy now. So it's been an evolution to find out why I do those things. It's almost subconsciously that I was doing them before.
No, I love it. And actually, all the kind of the spiritual guys, all of those people absolutely will talk about, when you say we've got 30% of our focus on yesterday, and we've got 40% worrying about what's happening tomorrow, the majority, therefore, of the stuff that's going on in our heads is made up. It's story. So even when we think about the past, we will put our spin on what did it mean and what's the relevance of that, and he said, she said, da, da, da. So this is kind of fantasy, and by the way, it's in the past, so this is story anyway.
Yeah.
The future, what's going to happen. Now, I'm not saying don't plan your week. That's really important, but we'll come back to that. The future, like maybe this or maybe that, maybe this is made up anyway. So we're living such a huge fantasy. The only thing that is real is right now, this moment, right this one here. And as you say, Roy, many people don't spend a whole heap of time there. They are in those other spaces and they're making stuff up in those other spaces. And finding what works for you to get into the present moment is a really powerful place to be. So if there are any leaders on this call, we do a lot of work about getting really present with your people. Otto Sharma is a guy who's written a book called U-Shaped Thinking, U-Shaped Curve. And what he talks about is you create new things when you are really present and in a space with somebody else. You will create new ideas, new relationships, new stuff. But most of the time we're not. Most of the time we're in the past or in the future. I've got a story. So I did a great coaching course in New York in 2010. A guy called Michael Neal. He's a great guy. He does some great work if you ever want to look at that sort of stuff. He was talking about his coach, Steve Hardison, who is called the Ultimate Coach. It works out of Phoenix, Arizona. And if you wanted to coach with Steve Hardison at the time, you had to pay 150 grand, $150,000 and go and visit Steve every week. And I sat there thinking, this guy's got to be doing something right. He's got to be doing something right. And so I was on a coaching course, so I was feeling quite adventurous. So I got home and I wrote him an email. Hi, Steve. I'm on Michael's course. You're his coach. You're obviously doing something right. Anything that you'd kind of like to share with me? I think I was probably more eloquent, but at the time, that was the sentiment. And he emailed me straight back and said, what's your number? I'll call you. Now, as Roy, I'm married to an accountant. He paled at this stage, he said, Claire, do not show that guy your credit card. But Steve Hardison did call me. He's a great guy. It's a couple of hours on the phone to him. He left me with the key thing that I remember that he left me. He said, Claire, when you're coaching someone, you need to be really present with them, really present with them. He said, I've got whoever on speed dial. No, I'm with you right now. But it's not even about getting off your devices, getting off your phone, not got one eye on the notifications. It's not even that. It's about going, every cell in my body, every thought in my head, everything is in your world right now. And when I've got that much presence with you and you've got that much presence with whatever it is you're working with, brilliant things happen. So we create fantastic things.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about. When you talk about presence.
You gave me goosebumps. Literally.
Fabulous. Yeah. But that's what I'm being present. So not only is it great for your relationship, and by the way, I came home after that and my kids were littler then, not the strapping guys that you've seen recently. And I'm kind of in the kitchen and they were at primary school, chatting, and I'm kind of chopping carrots and I went, Claire, take the learning. And I turn around and I get really present, and the kids can feel it. They can feel it when you're present. So it's about, for you, I'm in a nice, and by the way, you're present in an ice bath, right? There's never a longer 3 minutes than when you put me in an ice bath. You're really present. But being present with the world stops a lot of the nonsense. And it's hard, right? Because you're always a bit here and a bit there. But a lot of the spiritual guys will say the more you can bring that into your world, again, just the better you are able to navigate stuff, because you're not making up horror stories or dwelling or ruminating, all those other horrible things that we do. Now, I remember I did say, it's not like you don't organize your life. You don't just go, hey, live for today, because, that's it. No. So we will take time presently to make our plan. Okay. And then we've got our plan. Now, then again, we hold our plan lightly. If something huge changes, which in today's environment, it does, right? We revisit the plan, but we are present when we are living that plan.
I'm gonna jump into AI quickly because I just had a little bit of an epiphany there while you were talking, and so I want to share. And we've spoken a bit about AI, and I've just realized that some of the stuff that it's doing for me because I have all this stuff in my head, right? My head's quite full. You know that, right? And yeah, it's full of future ideas and past things, and yeah. So then I unload into AI. Yeah, I literally unload into ChatGPT or I unload somewhere else. Yeah, and that just it allows that stuff to not be there anymore. Yeah, and that's really been quite the last 2 years I've just been digging into it, and I realize now that that's really been quite a good way to get rid of in the past and just okay, be more present and just be in the present moment because now it's not here anymore. I know it's safely somewhere else. It's kind of almost like modern day to-do list. I know it's somewhere else and I know I'll be able to come back to it. And then the future scoping, the future, looking at the future as well. Yeah, it's also slowed that down because it's really like we don't know where we're going to be in a year's time. We really don't. Yeah. So what's the point in looking at that? And I love what you're saying about people making things up, the worst scenarios. Because if you honestly stop and look at yourself, yeah, and you honestly look at all those worst cases and you string them all together over the years, you're going to have 50,000 things. You would have just had the worst possible life ever.
Oh,
Right?
yes.
If even 1% of those things had happened,
Oh,
of all
yes.
things you presume can happen. So why can't we just take that lesson and just say, actually, you know what? It's not likely to happen. And this is the mind you're talking about, right? This is the
Oh,
predictive
yes.
mind.
Yeah,
Predictive mind, yeah.
absolutely. And by the way, our predictive mind, from an evolutionary perspective, our predictive mind is designed to keep us alive and nothing else. It's an evolutionary thing. So the anxious people out there, this is probably useful in terms of keeping you alive when there were lions and tigers and bears and snakes and stuff. So if there's a piece of rope on the floor, Roy, and you're saying, Claire, it's rope, and I'm going, no, it's a snake. It's a snake. Roy, it's a snake. 99 times out of 100, it's a piece of rope. But the one time it's a snake, and I go, it's a snake, see, and you get bitten and you die, my anxiety, my prediction of the worst case scenario has kept me alive. Now, the problem, so evolutionary, the kind of the looking for threat, looking for what might not be okay, looking for anxious, horrible scenarios, it's kept us alive. These days, we're not so much surrounded by lions and tigers and bears and snakes.
Unless you're in Australia.
Unless you're in Australia, yeah. Which, yeah, maybe you have to be a bit careful out there. But actually what it's doing is we're seeing threat everywhere. We're seeing threat in an email. We're seeing threat from a remark from somebody in our team, for example, and it triggers a threat response in us and it makes us anxious. Our brains, our evolutionary brains, they're a bit behind. They're not bothered about us having a beautiful, fun-filled, relaxed life. They just want to keep us alive. And like you say, all those fears and living through all those fears is not great. And sometimes we overreact. So this is where you get things like road rage and things like that. We overreact to today's environment, which is not really going to kill us as much, I don't think. Yeah. The other thing is, when you talk about all that stuff in your head, if you really get to, I'm making most of this stuff up, my advice to you is make it up good. Okay? You're making it up. Like hold it lightly, hold everything lightly. You're making up your persona, what you are and what you're not capable of, who you are, the threat to the world out there. Most of this stuff you're making up because your brain is a meaning making machine. It can't help it. If I give you 3 dots, you'll give me a triangle. If I give you 4, you'll give me a square. But you kind of go, let's make it up with a positive element to it. Now, you could say to me, Claire, it's all apple pie and we're tripping. We've got to take care of ourselves. And yes, we do have to take care of ourselves. But know that there is a negative bias in your head. So even if you tip it slightly towards the more positive, I'm making it positive, you're probably just equaling out the field here, right? Your brain is primed to see threat and negativity. So just give yourself a little bit of a break. And the only other thing I'll say around that, so Neil, as I say, Michael Neal, who's coaching us of Ghana, he does great work, but he talks a lot about our experience of life, we're living through the feeling of our thinking. So something will happen and stuff does happen in the world, right? I don't know, Roy sends me an email and I think that's a bit of a snotty email. By the way, he's never sent me a snotty email. So the thing happened, right? The email happened, but I then make meaning out of that. And I go, oh, Roy's really cross with me. Maybe last time I saw him, I didn't share the stuff that I was supposed to share with him, or maybe he wasn't happy with what I did on his podcast. So I make meaning out of the thing. I will then experience a feeling. So maybe I'll be cross with Roy back, or maybe I'll be devastated that Roy's unhappy with me. And so my experience of the day is through the feeling of my thinking. Now, actually, all that happened is there was an email, and things can be, by the way, there wasn't an email. I'm making all of this up for an example. But things happen every day and we make meaning out of it. And then going right back to what we talked about earlier in this conversation, our patterned thinking will dictate the meaning we make, right? And that's where we fall into this whole pattern again. And so we go, I thought my life was going to get better, but no, funny enough, it's exactly the same. It's going to be until we get out of it.
I love that. I very much, a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I read a book. I don't remember which one it was, but it was about positive intention. Okay. And it was people do things from a positive intention.
Yeah.
And the statement that stuck with me so much is like, when have you ever woken up, Roy, and done things with a negative intention? And I think to myself, but people go and murder people and people do, but they do it from a positive intention, right? In their world, in their space. Now, if you can wake up every day and look for positive intention in everyone you speak to and everything, your world changes. And it did for me. It changed massively. Somebody does something, you get into an underground, right? And it's sweaty, it's horrible. It's kind of jam-packed full. I don't often go into people's armpits, but I can understand how that would.
I bet I do more. I'm shorter than you.
And as you get in there, somebody punches into you, and you're like, idiot, whatever. And you turn around, and there's a chap that's disabled. And then suddenly, so he didn't barge into me because he wanted to. Nobody barges into to me. There's just their space. You talked about the road rage. You go around the corner, somebody cuts you off. And this is one I've struggled with. Honestly, I've struggled with it. I don't know why. It's just, but I'm good now. I'm much better now. The person in front of you, they're just thinking about the mother that's passed away or the kid that's having a problem at school, and they're not just paying attention in the now. They had no positive intention or no negative intention to do something with you. They're just having their positive intention in the day. And for me, that reframe has just made such a difference in my life.
Completely. So we do a little exercise on one of our leadership programs where we take other people's perspectives. And by the way, this does not mean that you acquiesce, that you give in, that you make your viewpoint less important. It isn't that. It actually it gives you a much more powerful stance. And so what we do is we go, okay, think about where you're having conflict with somebody. And they go, okay, and they think about that. And you go, tell me how you're thinking, feeling about the whole situation. And then you just say, okay, let's just say you're having conflict with John, and you go, okay, step into John's shoes, be John, see the world through John's eyes. What's John thinking, feeling, experiencing? How's he viewing you? And then you get them to do a third position where you go, right, be the wise observer, be that Yoda. It's always Yoda for me. I don't know who it is for anybody else. As Yoda, how are you seeing this situation? How are you seeing, what are they thinking, what are they feeling, and what do you think that person should do next? And when they go through this exercise, Roy, pretty much every single person says, wow, I just got a wider perspective on things. And I say, yeah, and then they went, it just generated so many more solutions as to how I could deal with the thing that's happening. Great. Did it in any way disempower you? Absolutely not. So if you really sit there and think about other people's perspectives and what's going on, it doesn't mean that you're giving in. It means you go, oh, there is a better solution. And by the way, I'm thinking right back to when we did the work in your organization. Oh, actually, if we look at what's going on with you, oh, there's a better solution that helps, that ticks off everybody's needs and requirements here. Because we're all just running these, doing our best every day, running these patterns. But
100%. It is so much that this positive piece, this what we presume, it does slant towards the negative unless we take control of that. We have the power to take control of that. And I'm going to dip into Dr. Joe Dispenza quickly because I think we both love talking about him. And we'll just kind of touch on a little bit more about his things. And I think the thing that really strikes me about Joe Dispenza is that this programming that we spoke about a little bit already, this programming of how we program ourselves to be day to day doing the same things. And then taking those tips out of that programming. How have you found that as you've gone through your journey with them? Because you've only come to it in the last year or so?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting. So before I came across Joe, I came across Amy Cuddy. Now, Amy Cuddy has done a TED Talk. Her work, by the way, has been a little bit, she's gone through a rough ride because they were talking about, can we replicate her findings? They've done a huge meta-analysis now. Amy is fine. So if you've got doubts about Amy Cuddy's work, she's fine. My Psychologist magazine said massive meta-analysis. But what Amy Cuddy did, I don't know if you've come across her, Roy, she was the power posing person. So she talked about the fact that, so if I said to you, there's somebody in the room next to you and they're not feeling great. Maybe they're feeling a little bit down, a little bit depressed. Tell me how they are being. Tell me how their body is being. So if I said that to you, Roy, tell me how their body would be. Someone sitting next to you and they're depressed. Yeah, we know it. Okay.
Yeah.
They might be kind of hugging themselves. They might have low mood. They might have low voice. They might be kind of touchy. Our bodies give us away. Anxiety, they'd be kind of sitting here. And what Amy talked about was the fact that we always think our mind is thinking a certain way and our body follows. What she talked about was, can we reverse that, engineer that? Tony Robbins has been talking about this for years and quite a few other people. So Amy wasn't the first, but she does it eloquently in her TED Talk. And what they're talking about is actually if we change the body, can we change the mind? And I do a lot of work I work with some brilliant guys actually who do a lot of voice and movement coaches. But actually we go, if we change the body first, okay, so let's just say you were going to go and do a presentation and you was thinking, I'm so nervous, I'm so nervous, I'm so nervous. And your body might follow. If you change your body, okay, so it's generally if you kind of put your chest up, and you do that now, your shoulders back, kind of sit up. There's something called your vagus nerve, right? And very simply put, it picks up all the stuff that's going on and it goes to your brain. Oh, you thought you were going to be nervous in this presentation. Turns out you're not. You're really confident. Okay. And so we follow. So we can, it's a bit of a hack. We can go to the body first. So that was the work that I came across first of all, is about this whole mind-body duality. And what I've found from Joe Dispenza, which I've been meditating for years because we all know we got to meditate, right? And so I've done Headspace and I've done Calm and I've done Sam Harris and every day I would kind of go into my office, Claire, meditate, and I'd be going to do this. I've got a busy mind too, chatter. And it didn't really work that well for me, but I kind of went, okay, I'll carry on. What Joe Dispenza does, and it's all guided, and it really gets you to focus on your body in a really deep way, the introspection of your body, the energy centers and the rest of it, is, I think it's kind of like the Amy Cuddy work on steroids, really. So he gets you to connect with your body almost, and he does it brilliantly, and fair play to Joe for getting us to do this, the way he gets you to really focus on the energy circulating through your body and where it's circulating and then what it's releasing. And I would be lying if I said my mind didn't wander ever in an hour-long meditation, which I frequently do now, unheard of before. It does. But actually, I'm much more able to bring it back and really focus on the stuff, and you can feel the changes in your body. So it really links all of those things together, the neural connection, your body, the vagus nerve, all that stuff working for you. And for me, Roy, it's another tool in my toolkit. So you've introduced me to cold therapy. You've introduced me to breath work. I love all of this inquiry and really working out what you're thinking about and what you're believing. This brings it all together in a practice, because you might go, Claire, how do you do that? And you do your stuff, your breathwork, cold therapy. I do my stuff by going, you take out your limiting belief, you do some inquiry around it, you think about what might be more useful to think about. And he does it by going, okay, let's just take it out really into a cellular level. It's a practice though. So and I mean it when I say an hour-long meditation. My husband says, how do you do that? And I say, it's actually a lot easier than my 10 minutes of Headspace.
Yeah. And this is it. For me, there's all of these now gurus in our space, Joe Dispenza, Wim Hof, Tony Robbins, they're taking so much information from previous people and they're repurposing it for the modern day world. Yeah, and where Wim Hof has taken tumor breathing and repurposed it. The Scandinavians always used to do cold exposure and still do, and so he's bringing that in. Dr. Joe is taking the mystic kind of view of things and bringing that in, but in a way that works for our modern minds. I couldn't have done Joe Dispenza's work if I hadn't already been doing the breathwork. Because the breathwork really kind of centers me, it slows my mind right down, and then just gives me enough space. Now I'm good enough to be able to do a Joe Dispenza meditation for an hour and a half, just be straight into it, drop in and do the work. Yeah, and for sure, there's thoughts, right? There's thoughts. But that's the purpose of the meditation, is to actually see the thoughts and let them go. And so for business owners and for high performers, this really, if you want to actually make yourself go forward, if you want to develop, if you want to grow, you have to go inside.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
If you can't step forward, if you do the same thing every day, and this is one way for me to really go inside myself, and really see those thoughts that are coming in. Why do they keep coming in? There's something there that I need to finish, I need to change, I need to do something. So they're not just thoughts. The ones that are bugging me the most, and luckily I'm getting less and less of them. But if they're bugging me the most, then I need to do something with them. I need to action them. Right? I need to do that in my real world. But this gives me, I could almost jot the stuff down and have that's the most important thing that my mind is picking up in the to-do list. So it's kind of interesting looking at it from that view. But yeah, so Joe Dispenza, cold exposure, all these things, just a way that we get into ourselves and learn more about ourselves for me, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as I said, people who run away from it, stop it. Okay. Come back, because self-awareness, that's the key. That is the key to updating, improving your self-image, working out what's working for you, what's not working for you. I was talking to somebody yesterday, actually, somebody who lost her husband. So she lost her husband a year ago. It's a pretty sad state. And I said, look, Freud, and by the way, I didn't take much from Freud, but this I do, talked about our coping strategies. And in the short term, something like repression of emotion works. Okay. In the short term, it's brilliant. Kind of go, I need to hold it together. I need to do. In the long term, it's horrible for you. It will come out. You can't just stop thinking about all of these things. Now, I'm not talking about going into therapy for 7 years and rehashing all the same stuff. But what I'm doing is saying, recognizing, it's interesting you said there, Roy, you said, what's going on? Why is this thinking happening? And you pull it out and you go, okay. And where I think modern techniques differ from those age-old techniques is to go, what is this about? What's the message that I'm taking from this? What do I need to do with this? Where is this helpful? And where is this no longer valid for me? So it's very much it's more of a kind of user manual for this stuff rather than let's just rehash the sad stories and make us cry again. It isn't that. It's really about going, what's going on here? Recognize that. Is that helpful? No. Where's that not helpful? What am I doing when I believe that? What would be really helpful if I didn't believe that? How could I be? Who could I be? What would I have to believe then? Okay, let's move on.
So I just want to bring it back before we close to cause and effect, to the Cranfield work you do. Just give us a bit of a flavor of how you can help people, who you can help in businesses. And I think every single business should have a Clare. There's only one of you. Yeah, just run us through that.
Yeah, as I said, a business psychologist. So my business model is I work with businesses. I don't work with individuals. I know lots of people say there's just too much out there. So I work primarily with businesses. The work I do with Cranfield, so I'm associate faculty with Cranfield. So I come in, I run some of their open programs, but then I also do my own work as well. And just thinking about the work. So currently I'm under an NDA, so I can't tell you who they are, but with a really exciting organization. And they are really trying to sort out their top senior management team to say, how are we going to work together more effectively? There are some elephants in the room. There are some personalities. There are some things that are not getting done. So I'll work with teams to say, how do we really get the best out of what we're doing? I put together leadership programs for organizations. But as I said, then they're not just, here's the latest thinking around leadership. A lot of that is thinking about, who are you being as a leader? Why? Who do you want to be as a leader? How do we get there? So a lot of that work. And then I do a lot of executive coaching, but again, only on a business to business process.
And if people want to get hold of you, Clare, and hear more about it, get in contact, have that 2-hour conversation.
Yeah. Do you know what he charges now? He charges $10,000 for the 2-hour conversation that I had for free.
Wow.
And he charges $200,000 for him to coach you for a year. He's a great guy. He really holds your toes to the fire. Absolutely. Doesn't let you get away with any nonsense at all. But no, I don't charge for 200,000, I promise you. How do they get hold of me? Clare, Clare, no I, at Cause and Effect. So it's cause and, not and, causeandeffect.co.uk, because the whole idea is that you put yourself at, it's you that's doing this, right? No one else, it's you. So you're causing the effect that you want to have in the world. Or you can come via Roy. But yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. It's been great chatting.
You are most welcome, and lovely to talk with you, Roy, as always.
Thanks for listening to Power Movers, the podcast from All the Power, where our mission is to help business owners reclaim their time, reset their energy, and live the life they love. If this episode sparked something for you, your next step is simple. Take the fit check at allthepower.co.uk. It's a short clarity tool that helps you see where you are, what's getting in the way, and what might be possible if you have the right system. When you're ready, come and join the tribe. Power Movers start with our signature framework called Elevate 360, a system built to help you escape survival mode, create structure, and move forward with power. Just remember, everything we share here is based on real stories, experience, and frameworks. It's not personal business advice. Always speak to a coach or advisor before making big decisions. Because in the end, it's about more than business. It's about building a life that you actually love. I'm Roy Castleman, and I'll see you in the next episode.